All right. How's it going? Another day, another warm up. Let's go. It's 221. I was hoping to be able to have prepared for August 1st for season 5, but I have not. I am juggling everything and zero time. So season 5 won't be tomorrow. I will have to delay season 5. So we will be keep on going on season 4 until I'm ready. Or maybe I'll take up. I don't know. But it's getting there. It's getting there. Hey, Weeping Jay, how's it going? Say it. What's up? What it do? What's up? So, any suggestions on topics? On what I should draw? I'm all ears. I need to double check for Friday, by the way. See if Friday is going to be a special stream. Half day stream. We'll see. Hopefully. Hey, Dame Deviant, how are you? Good morning. Owl clamp. Clamb? What's a clamb? I don't know what a clamb is. I need to Google. Clamb? Like a metallic clamp? Or a clam shell? Oh. Right. Owl clam. Any other topics? Is Sayard gonna win again by default with his weird ass topics? Owl clam, starfish dragon. You just keep on going aquatic. Dame Deviant, me too. Juggling kids, work plus, family, 2 competitions, freelance. Hey, what Amir, how's it going? So we have one topic suggested. Please, another topic. It's owl clam. The first topic is owl clam. Whatever that is, it seems like that's going to be drawn. If there's no other. The elder ant. Alright. So we got 2 topics. You can't do more than 1 per person. So which one do you want? We do it split in half. So that means owl clam. Say art. Owl clam by say art. Hey, Omot. Gesture drawing. You've made it. Owl clam by Sayart. Okay, I will do owl clam plus gesture. Gesture talk. Owl clam. I only have 1 image. And that's like a statue. And it's not combining the two, but it is the two. So like an owl sitting on top of a clam with a ring, like Indiana Jones. Hey Larry, how's it going? Fresh. Fight milk. Almost. Right. So I'm not going to be able to draw gesture, but I will talk about it. And probably get some points out. So the question, Omot, was about how you get good gestures. Is that the question? It could be a owl made out of clams. Indeed, it could. We could have the books like that, and then being like clams. Hey Kirill, how's it going? I think it was you who made a post about freelance life and how beautiful it is while sitting at the seaside on your portable tablet. Was that you? Just general tips for gesture drawing. That was not you, Kirill. All right, maybe some other Kirill then. All right. So for gestures, like the basics of a good gesture is understanding anatomy. Fight milk, yeah. So basics of a good gesture, right, is a pretty good solid understanding of anatomy. The problem always arises when you don't know where things should be going and you're trying to add dynamics to it. That can be anything, you know. Try drawing a car when you don't know what a car looks like. Then it doesn't matter how you make the car look like it's driving fast or crashing or whatever. If you don't know what a car looked like, then you know that's the problem. So even though when you start out learning anatomy, it's always good to also practice gestures because it's one discipline of many when it comes to the human anatomy and capturing the complexity of a human. So for me, it's always good to try to do both. When you have a moderate, good grasp of proportions, like step one is obviously how many heads on average is a body, you know, distance between body parts and so on. So when you have a fair understanding of that, you can start playing with perspective and proportions and poses and so on. And one thing that's important to remember when you're doing poses is the separation of the difference between a static pose and a pose in motion. That's the fundamental difference that you should always, when you're drawing the pose, consider. And there's a lot of people who make bad poses, and they struggle a lot with poses because they try to do both. They try to do a dynamic pose in motion while planting the feet. And that's always when a lot of awkwardness occurs. I generally don't like to have extremely dynamic poses because that always tends to be thrown back at me from clients when you're doing design work. So there's always this fine balance between pose versus design. So that's why you see a lot of concept art having quite somewhat static poses. So first of all, like, what is the pose? Is it emotion or planted or static pose? And if you look at someone walking, that's obviously not a static pose. They are walking, so that means that they will shoot their weight off like a balance point, because their motion, their body is in motion. So that's why you can, for example, you can put on someone on their toe, the ball of their foot, and if they would stand still, they would fall. But because they are in motion and their body is pushing, is being pushed forward by momentum, they don't fall because they just put down the next foot. And that's like step one to figure out what you're drawing, is if it's emotion or static. And if you're doing one in motion, there's also, you have to consider it, consider a balance point of sorts. And balance points are always, if you're standing, like your character is standing in perspective, right? And the central mass is shared between the feet. So that would be the balance point. And if you would draw the character like leaning to the side, he would still need to be somewhat balanced on the balance point, shared weight down. And all these kind of small things, especially, you need to start, if it's a static pose, you need to think about weight distribution and dynamics within the static pose, because if you do it too balanced, too even on each side, and there's no tension, or there's no relaxation, or there's no life in the pose, they will be very robotic. And then you can use techniques like contrapposto, which is the human system. If you shoot one shoulder up, usually the hip is shooting the opposite angle. Like right shoulder up will have right hip down. So the body like evens out. The spine will be like an S, because you can't just bend the top of the S and then have static. That will be extremely awkward, and it won't be a relaxed pose. But that's not the only way to do it, because again, you can have your feet planted, right? But you're maybe fighting, or you're standing and you're maybe carrying something. And if you're carrying something, your what did I call it? Your balance point will be shifted because you're carrying something big. Or if it's extremely big, you can't hold the end of it, and it's really heavy, and then all your force needs to be able to hold the point, because it's so long, right? So you usually then distribute the weight, and if it's something very heavy, you usually are very balanced on your feet. Shared weight, center of gravity, exactly. But with all things, center of gravity can be shifted. As an example, take Kung Fu, for example. When they have put majority of their force on the back leg, and the front leg is only like 30% of weight, because they want to be able to spring with their back leg, the right leg that's standing behind. You know, like this classic karate pose, and their central point of gravity or balance point is taken because they use the muscle on that leg, and they put all the force down there, while this one has almost no weight to it. But still, that's that's the static pose, but it's shifted. So that's also something we need to consider. Hey, Katuko Art. Oh, my pleasure. Nice to see you here again. Well, look at that purple check mark. Oh. Well, thank you very much, Katiko. I'm ranting about, I'm talking about posing and drawing owl clamp topic by Sayart. Anyway, so the next thing to consider when you're trying to learn posing or draw poses is the importance of people hunting. I call it. It sounds quite Hannibal Lecter, but what I used to do was I used to go to a cafe or a mall and sit at the mall and try to capture people's poses as they were walking by. And at the beginning, when you start, you will try to do it very correctly and try to capture everything, and you will fail at doing it. And again, it will come back to something that I heard a really good anatomy teacher talk about, was Glenn Vilpul, and he said you have to draw the form, capture the shape of the motion in an exaggerated form, and then when you add knowledge to it, it will stiffen up. But if you don't exaggerate when you're capturing, you will start from a stiff position. And if you go and try to capture or people hunt at a cafe or a shopping mall and see the people walk by and or stand and smoke or whatever, and if you try to be extremely accurate, they won't have a character and they won't have a soul. And one thing that, for example, someone walking, kind of like having a bad day, right? And they're like walking and carrying their bags, and if you play with that pose when they're walking past, that's the most important thing that you should try to capture, because it's not like the accurate rotation of the elbow versus shoulder, and that you should know that by heart already. So when you see someone and you capture their motion and you just try to like nail the way their limbs are moving. Like there's this 12 principles of animation from Disney where they talk about stretch and squash, and the leading forms should like if you punch, the punch that you're throwing should have a line of action, while the other arm that's not punching, you can have a more curve to it or a more exaggerated form, so that the motion gets translated correctly. And it's the same when you're trying to capture someone. It's getting that motion, getting that capture, getting that animation curve down of what maybe say someone punches. I mean, you can do a punch like this, or like a punch like that, or uppercut, if you're doing uppercut just with the arm, there's no soul in it, right? And then when there's a real boxer, there's a full motion there. You can really capture the full body's dynamics with a line. Like or it all depends on how you want to try to capture that motion of the punch. Like here's the uppercut. And this is not accurate anatomy, right? There's nowhere close accurate anatomy. But then when you've captured the form, you can start playing around with, okay, how is the placement of the feet? Where's the central part of the gravity? And you can try to add all this knowledge to the pose. And maybe you need to shift the head, or all these things. But if you try to be accurate and not capture the pose from the beginning, again, it'll end up extremely stiff, because when you're adding the information on top, you're correcting and adjusting, and it'll be extremely stiff from the get-go. So that was one of the really nice things that I picked up from Glenn Vilpo, is that exaggerate the motion, exaggerate the pose, and then because it's the important part is capturing the essence of the motion, the impressions of the motion, rather than the accurate accurate anatomy in a pose. That can always come afterwards. And that's why, for example, it's really good to do thumbnails and practice motions. And what I also used to do was I used to look at dance performances, like on shows, like they've recorded some dance performance or things like that, and I used to just have it running and draw the poses that they were dancing, just scribble them constantly, like almost not looking at the paper, just kind of like trying to capture like how they're shifting their weight, and what point point of the body is being used as a point of contact, like with the feet, because when they're dancing, they're constantly in motion and moving their body and shifting the weight, and you can really see it if you look for it, like draw the line that it's almost like a lightning going into the ground, like where's the motion, where's the foot versus the rest of the body, and you can try to capture that. Hey Nareda, oh man, I'm not even looking up, just keep on ranting. Say art, yeah, that's also a really nice thing to do. I mean, you can get it from anywhere. You can look at boxing, you can look at anything really with the human body, and there's no limit really where you can get it. And I mean, going to the cafe or a busy street is the easiest to capture real world humans, right? And there's something interesting with the fleeting moment of reality. So poetic. And that you shouldn't look at photos, because photos you can cheat. They are not moving, and you don't know where the motion was before and after. And when you're looking at someone and you don't have the time to like freeze, draw, and you just have them in motion, like what was the important thing that I saw of that character in motion. Hey Cosmoverse, how's it going? Friendship. When you decided to become a concept artist, did you draw all time until you got hired, or did you have a little job in case of? I talked about this actually at IFCC this year, about my artistic journey, and where I got to where I was. I was a worker, like factory worker, until I was 24, and I tried to get into art um, like indie games and so on. But at 2000 in 2004, when I took the leap, before that there was really no concept art. I mean, there was some, but it was not at all like it is today in the in the industry today. It's absolutely day and night in how it used to be and what it is now. So back then it was, I couldn't, I had to master, uh, try to learn, to get hired. But the problem for me in 2004 or prior to that was that I had to work. I had to have money, and the industry at that time wasn't the way where it is today, where there's like thousands of work. There's marketplaces, and like on ArtStation and so on. Back then, it was you sent something into the studio you wanted, and you tried your best to find the email to contact them. Like that's it. There was nothing. There wasn't really, completely different way of how the industry was. Fresh yourself on gesture. Yeah. And at that time I couldn't do art and for money. So what it was just me trying to learn, trying to get good enough to get hired, and then I started. Then I found conceptart.org more or less, and I quit my job as a factory worker, or actually like water pump in construction guy, whatever, and went to uni, and for the first time in my life had, or adult life, had full time to be able to devote to art. But also in Swedish unis you don't need to pay for the uni, so you can go for free, and you even get a little bit free money to live on, and you could also loan if you want. So I loaned money and didn't need to work, so I could just grind art, and rather quickly, I'd say within a year, I got my first contract of uni. Actually, already a little bit before, but I had already networked with a lot of people. I had already started drawing a little bit now and then, and posting it online. So it wasn't like I was completely unknown, because people who were also very interested in getting into the industry or learning or being better, that we already knew of each other, because we were all in the grind together, right? So that as soon as someone started getting a leg up, they could go like, hey, you need another concept artist. It's a lot of like keep your friends back, And this color, yeah, that's a little bit harsh. It's a little bit too harsh. I think I graduated Swedish uni or bachelor with maybe $8,000 debt, but that was optional. I didn't need that debt. I gained that debt on my own. It is a stark contrast indeed. It is a bit crazy. Yeah, so as soon as I started making money, I started making more money, because I don't know if it was timing or what it was, but uh, maybe I reached a plateau of skills that people started enjoying my work. I don't know, but one one fed into the other, and I really got a lot of uh, requests, which I didn't complain about, at all. It was really good. Um, or maybe I was right in time, or my friends were very kind, or some of all. I don't know, but in general, what happened was um, I had to get money, and if you can't do art jobs to get money to further your skill, you're losing time uh, with having to do other work that's outside of art. I'm not saying it's like don't do that, because it's important that you have money and a place to live, and a way to further your skills with art when you do have more money. But what happens always is when you have to go do normal work, um, art will be put aside for a while. But then usually what happens when you do have money, you can actually spend a little bit time on uh, art, which is good, until you get to the point where um, you can focus on art only. So yeah, there was a big part of my life where uh, I had to work normal work jobs to support my passion, until my passion became my job, and then it was all gravy. Lurib, yeah, I mean nowadays is probably quite different from when I was in university in Sweden, because when I was in uni, that 2004 to 2006, so it is it's a bit different now. French. Wow. I mean, this wasn't art school, mind you. What I went university I went to, it was computer um, game dev, more or less. So my bachelor is in at that time it was called like hypermedia, or some like stupid thing like that. So what I learned on my bachelor was C++ programming and Dolphin, write game design and write narrative stories, and human computer interaction, and a shitload of 3D and 3D animation in ZBrush. So I walked away from there like someone who has a fragmented mind, who knows everything, a little bit about everything, but mastery of not. And I actually didn't have a single 2D class except life drawing, which I more or less forced into the university. But nevertheless, I was so happy that I could actually do art full time. So I was like, it doesn't matter. I just won't sleep anything, and I will learn 2D on my own while learning all these other things in uni. And luckily, I started getting hired, so I could learn and getting money and all these things. So I don't know if this kind of debt-free bachelor is translatable to art schools. This wasn't art school. I'm not trained in art. I'm a my training is a 3D animator, if anything. Lurib, really? but that's fine. Don't have it on school grounds. I went to a workshop one time where they went and hired prostitutes for the models, and they were a little bit worried when they said there's gonna be 30 people, and then they had to prove no, it's not. It's not 30 people doing that. It is 30 people drawing you. Calm down. So the models walked in very carefully into the space, but there was just a bunch of nerds with paper and pens, and they were like, "Whew, all right." Lurib ZBrush warm-ups? Yeah, maybe. No, I wasn't the one organizing that prostitute model session. By the way, I was an attendee. I wasn't doing that. All right, so that's a weird clam owl while drawing and discussing gestures. Hey Miguel, how's it going? Yeah, it's good that we had to explain, right? Or good that we were all innocent people looking like we came out of caves with pen and paper. Hey Omot, hopefully the rant about gestures brought some insight in how I view how to improve gestures. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you can distill some form of information out of it. Frenchy. Those are cool too. You shouldn't say no to that. How often can you draw old people's bodies? Not often. Usually it's just some shitty, doughy person that can't stand still. Old people are cool to draw. They are definitely different from young people. Anyways, let's find someone to raid. Come Friday, I think it'll be a half-day stream, a 4-hour stream. So we'll see. I will let you guys know tomorrow. Now, who to raid? We raided Chloe Ventura yesterday, so let's not bless her today. Maybe. What is other people doing? I don't know. Do we need to? Oh, that looks pretty cool. All right, let's raid her. Is that the right? Yes. Naruga stream? I don't know. Let's have a look. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. Alright. We can raid Naruga stream. So as per usual, we will I will do the outro, and after the outro take you to the raid, so don't go anywhere. Thanks everyone for joining in. Hopefully the rant about gestures made sense. See you guys tomorrow, same time, same place. Thanks everyone for joining in. Thanks for those juicy follows, and for hanging out and talking. As always, you guys are the best. Have a good one. Bye.